This is a Sandler training audiobook, produced and distributed by Gildan Media, a division of Recorded Books, in partnership with Sandler Training. Customer Service the Sandler Way, 48 Rules for Strategic Customer Care, by Mackeigan. Narrated by Pratt. We hope you enjoy this program. Forward. It's quite common for clients to tell us, "We use the Sandler system for our whole company, not just the sales team." This book is a welcome reminder that David Sandler's breakthrough system of human interaction carries the power to transform the entire organization, and particularly those parts of it that interact directly with the customer. Customer service has always been an important element of business strategy, but it's hard to imagine a time when it was more important than it is today. We live in an era when customer opinions not only matter deeply to the bottom line, but can radically transform the position of just about any business in very short order. A video testimonial from a happy customer can go viral within 24 hours and open up vast horizons of new opportunities for your company and everyone associated with it. By the same token, a mishandled exchange with a cranky customer can also build up an instant, deeply motivated army of followers on Facebook or any of a dozen other platforms, and can permanently damage your market potential, or even your company's existence. In such an environment, it's important to bear in mind that everyone in your organization is, ultimately, part of the customer experience. It's also worth remembering that your company's customer service plan is only as strong as its weakest link. Mackeigan's repositioning of the classic Sandler selling system methodology into a world-class customer care program is an essential resource for leaders and teams who understand, as all the best in-class operations do, that superior customer service isn't something that gets added on after the sale closes. It's something that's built in from the beginning of the relationship. David H. Mattson, President and CEO, Sandler Training. Introduction. I rarely sleep well when I'm catching an early flight the next morning. One night I found myself awake at 4 a.m. I posted my favorite battle cry on my Facebook page: "Be the kind of woman who, when your feet hit the floor in the morning, the devil says, 'Oh, crap, she's up.'" By 5:30 a.m., I was at the airport striving to be that woman, but I found it wasn't easy. The attendant handed me a boarding pass without a seat number, a sure sign that my flight had been oversold and I was not a winner of the seat lottery. Sitting at the gate, my next update said, "I'm headed to Baltimore to do a talk on customer service, and I can't even get out of my own airport without my blood pressure spiking like the dot-coms in the 80s. Floods of sympathetic likes and comments appeared. Within moments, my update was followed by this answer from the airline: "Overselling flights is standard industry practice." Was this supposed to make me feel better? Half an hour later, the gate agent appeared, grim-faced and steely-eyed. I was the first in line, ready to do battle, willing to say or do anything to get on my flight. But as I looked into the gate agent's face, I caught myself. What I saw was not her, but the people who had put this situation into action. I saw the boardroom table where the VP of sales told the group, "We have to oversell every flight. We can't afford not to." I saw the HR manager who was again refused additional hires and training, knowing that his front lines were understaffed and stressed. I saw the customer experience manager being outvoted, again, in favor of saving money. I saw the operations manager who struggled trying to make the system work more smoothly. And I saw the final decision-maker who made a tough call based on the numbers. The woman in front of me did not make the decision to oversell flights, but it was her job to do battle with me and the 4 people in line behind me. Further, it was her first flight of the day. She likely had 4 or 5 more flights that were overbooked that day, with 4 or 5 more people on each flight. It was her job to stand and defend other people's policies, negotiate settlements, calm frayed nerves, restore relationships, and do it well. Could I do that? I doubted it. I pictured her going home that night to her family, tired and brittle from a day of battle, burnout a distinct possibility. What would be the upside of making this gate agent feel worse about the situation? Any exchange between the two of us now could only be helped by supporting, not persecuting her. Frontline service providers are often blamed for company policy, lack of training, poor hiring practices, and an internal system that makes it hard for customers to do business. So, I smiled at this customer service warrior and said, "Please do what you can to get me on this flight. Thanks." She gave me a grateful smile, and I was the first of the waiting group to get a seat assignment. When I did post a review of the situation at the end of the day, it was in full support of the service representative and included pointed inquiries about the company's policies. Think how differently this story might have ended. What if I had been confrontational with this airline employee, as any number of customers might have chosen to do? Our discussion could have escalated to an ugly scene that 250 other passengers overheard. Some onlookers may have tweeted it, put it on Facebook, or related the story to friends and family. I even had a reporter friend who was doing an article on airline policy on overselling flights. She would have loved an interview about a conflict I had with an airline representative. That negative encounter could have reached tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of people. Here's another story that illustrates how many customer service stories these days do indeed have lives of their own. In a suburban mall in Oregon in 2013, a 14-year-old girl was shamed out of a chain store when the clerk told her she was too fat to shop there and asked her to leave. The story not only went viral on the internet, but was picked up by print media across the country and around the world. We've seen this happen increasingly in the last few years. One employee, one encounter, one customer, but hundreds of thousands of ears hearing the story. The outrage that this story produced on the internet is indicative of technology's ability to get the word out lightning fast to millions of readers. The millions spent on marketing, presentation, product mix, and overheads can be damaged by poor customer service. One negative experience like this young girl had, and you have a public relations crisis on your hands. This book, and its 48 rules for strategic customer care, give you the guidelines you need to make intelligent investments in customer care and create a sustained and working culture that's built on the belief that the customer not only matters, but is the only reason your organization exists. The kinds of investments I'll be asking you, the company or team leader, to make, investments not just of money, but of time, attention, and political capital, fall into 5 specific categories. Superior customer service is a puzzle you and your organization must put together, a puzzle with pieces that include 1. Good hiring practices. 2. Proper training on more than just product information. 3. A seamless, customer-friendly process for every aspect of a customer's journey with your company, including well-thought-out policies to ease every step along the way. 4. An employee-friendly process for developing new business sales opportunities when they arise. And 5. Clearly communicated expectations regarding both sales and upserving, which means looking beyond the customer's immediate need to the reason behind it. Each of these 5 categories is a section of this book, and each section contains rules for strategic customer care relevant to that section, based on the teachings and principles of our company's founder, David Sandler. What do we mean by strategic customer care? At Sandler, we believe that customer care is not about putting up a poster, memorizing a script, or reciting a slogan. We believe customer care must be strategic. This means both identifying long-term or overall goals for customer care and laying out how those goals will be achieved. Building your business culture around strategic customer care means identifying the tactical, calculated, pragmatic steps that ensure your customers' good experience in the short term and their loyalty in the long term. Customer relationships are like marriages. You want to build them for the long term. If they have a good foundation, open communication, mutual respect, and good intentions, they can weather almost any storm. Care for your customers today in anticipation of the time when the relationship may experience some strain, and your customers will know from experience that they can trust you to make it right. Chapter 1. Sandler Rules for Customer Service Hiring. The Goldilocks Principle. Before you hire a customer care provider, you must know what is important to find. Create a checklist of must-haves and don't compromises. If you're going to be picky, obsessive, and unreasonably selective about anything, make it about the people you put in front of or on the phone with your customers. Disappointment, frustration, and regret may occur if you don't check before you hire. Check that your candidate, 1. has a bias toward action. 2. has a strong sense of personal responsibility. 3. can balance process orientation with an ability to step outside the process. 4. focuses on building business relationships. 5. has an ability to question and qualify. 6. demonstrates persistence and armor around no. 7. has an ability to quickly read a situation. 8. has a low need for approval. 9. has strong empathy. And 10. demonstrates good manners and etiquette. There is no one perfect description for a customer care provider. A law office customer care provider may have different job requirements than one at a call center. Think about the results you want and write the job description accordingly. However, the 10 factors apply to almost every business-to-customer interaction and every customer service provider. Every strength has the potential to be a weakness if it comes in too much quantity. Good detail-oriented employees can get so hung up on details that they never complete a task. The great relationship builder may never get around to asking for the customer's business. On the other hand, too little of a competency can also be a problem. Too little detail orientation, and things are missed. Too little relationship orientation, and the customer feels neglected and emotionally detached. Remember Goldilocks' criteria? Not too hot and not too cold? Make sure your candidate strikes the appropriate balance. 1. Check for a bias toward action. If you want to measure productivity in your customer care providers, measure their bias toward action before you hire. Taking action is a quality that says, I must do something, so I'll quickly assess the situation, decide on a path, and do something myself. Rather than wait for the customer to call back, a bias toward action says to reach out to the customer first. A bias toward action is the proactive ingredient in customer care. Julie had been promoted from production to her customer service job by being friendly, reliable, and well-liked by staff. Her first week on the phones, her supervisor was quite sure he had made a good decision. Listening in on her calls, he could see that people took to her right away. While covering lunch breaks, Julie got a call from Greg, a customer with a reputation as demanding and gruff. "Where's Bob?" Greg barked. "Bob's out sick today. This is Julie. Is there some way I can help you?" "I need my usual Thursday order a day early, and I need it shipped by overnight courier today. Think you can handle that, Julie?" he asked sarcastically. "Absolutely," said Julie. "Thanks for the call." Julie felt good that she could make Greg, such a difficult customer, happy. After she hung up, however, Julie realized that she had been so intimidated by his attitude that she had not checked any of the things she should have. What was his usual order? Did the warehouse have the items in stock now? Could they pack it today? What time did the last courier do pickups? And could they even deliver overnight? Julie knew by the feeling in her stomach that while she had made Greg happy for the moment, she had set herself up for problems by not asking those questions. If she went to accounting to get copies of Greg's Thursday order, she'd have to leave the phones unattended. She decided to wait and ask her supervisor when she returned from lunch in an hour. She didn't want to call Greg back, risking his wrath, to confirm the information. He'd think she was an idiot for not knowing already. When at last she had someone to ask procedures, she had missed her window of time to either process the order or to call Greg back and explain why they couldn't deliver. The supervisor was upset, the customer was upset, and Julie felt like a failure, all because she didn't go ahead and right the situation herself from the beginning. There are a number of reasons why customer service providers might not take action right away. Sometimes they're afraid of someone being angry with them. Sometimes they're afraid of making a mistake. Perhaps they simply reason that waiting is a better option than making the wrong move. Whatever the reason, the customer sees it as neglect. They don't really care about the why. Had Julie gone ahead and called Greg back, she may have found him to be helpful or not helpful, but whatever his reaction, it would have been better than not warning him of the possibility of not getting his product on time. Julie chose inaction when she should have braved the consequences and picked up the phone. Having a bias toward doing something, no matter what the consequences, is always preferable to doing nothing and hoping things will work out. They seldom do. In hiring Julie, HR put a premium on likability rather than a bias toward action. It's great to be liked, but it's more important to be respected. Asking all the questions would have likely given Greg a more secure feeling that he would have the product as promised. If he couldn't have it on time, he would have had more choices about what to do next. Employees who can follow instructions are fine. They are certainly easy to manage. In customer service, however, it helps to have people who can see where problems might arise and stop them before they happen. You want employees who can do more than react to a situation. If you don't hire for a bias toward action, you may get an employee with a default setting that believes, "I did my best." A candidate with a more entrepreneurial attitude would be unwilling to stop until the problem was acted upon and solved. Entrepreneurs go beyond their limits to a solution and can quickly connect the dots between the customer needs and their company's products, services, and solutions. Going beyond prescribed limits to achieve a customer-satisfying solution is a company-mandated culture. If customer service providers are encouraged to do this, if they're told that creative solutions are encouraged, then the result is a customer-happy culture. If the providers are only permitted to follow the rule book, you can expect outcomes like Julie's. If they're encouraged to push the limits, on the other hand, the result will be better outcomes. If you do check for proactivity, problem solving, and problem finding before you hire, you should also provide a working environment where these traits are valued, not shunned. Nothing can demotivate a problem solver faster than being told, "We've always done it this way," and then being ignored. If you're going to the trouble to seek out intelligent employees, give them the opportunity and freedom to solve problems as well as to present alternatives. Don't shut them down or throttle them with rules and regulations that don't enable their strengths. 2. Check for a strong sense of personal responsibility. A high level of personal responsibility in a customer care provider is not alone a predictor of success, but a lack of taking personal responsibility can frustrate customers, make them feel neglected, and can certainly harm relationships. At a fast food restaurant, I noticed that the teenaged waitresses would immediately turn to carefully cleaning and prepping their area the moment there was no one waiting in line. Likewise, as soon as someone approached the counter, one would pop up immediately and ask to be of service. The only time they spoke to each other was to ask a business-related question. There was no filling time, chatting about their day. They were completely focused on serving customers and creating a clean, inviting environment. These teenagers obviously took pride in their jobs, their workplace, and their role. Anyone can learn to wipe a table, but the internal motivation to actively make the workplace better is much harder to instill. Taking responsibility for your work area, your customers, and their problems is key. When problems arise, blame is a useless tool. Having the maturity to say, "I didn't create this problem, but I will be the one to fix it," is the sign of a great customer care provider. Customer care providers with this characteristic will make statements like, "I am so sorry this situation occurred. Can I help to make it right?" We hate to see these mistakes happen. I'm here to ensure it gets straightened out. Or, "I can see this has really upset you. Fortunately, I'm the one to see this gets fixed." These statements don't deflect blame. They don't accuse or defend. They simply acknowledge that the customer has an issue and take responsibility for finding a solution. In interviews, candidates will tell you they love to serve customers, that caring is their top priority, and that they take their jobs to heart. 6 months down the road, you may see that their job is a means to pay their rent and nothing more. Internal motivation can be encouraged, but it's a difficult thing to create when it's not there in the beginning. Why make your job harder by not weeding out those who lack a strong sense of personal responsibility? Personal responsibility means taking a job seriously, no matter how big or small. It means doing more than you are paid to do. It means caring about doing a great job, whether someone is watching you or not. Those who want to progress in their career path within a company understand that taking personal responsibility for the job they have now is the way to earn that right. Driving a company forward means that every employee has taken personal responsibility toward achieving excellence. It means taking personal responsibility in solving customer problems, not passing them off to someone else. It means taking pride in the job, the company, and one's own personal performance. Assess and interview with a view to a candidate's level of personal responsibility. There is a great distance between shifting blame and sidestepping responsibility, and being burdened or overly responsible to the point of paralysis. Use the Goldilocks principle. Make sure your candidates strike the appropriate balance. 3. Check for process orientation. Like the other areas of a company, the warehouse, the accounting department, shipping, customer care is a process. In fact, it typically involves a number of processes, such as incoming, order processing, returns and restocking, setting up new accounts, and solving customer problems. If a customer care candidate does not already have a process orientation, it'll be an uphill battle to instill one. John had been the supervisor of customer care for over 10 years, but he had never had an employee make as many mistakes as Brian. While Brian was a wonderful person, a bright light in the company, and well-liked by his customers, keeping him on track with company processes was a constant challenge and was sometimes disruptive to other employees. Worse yet, customers were experiencing delays in getting their orders because Brian didn't seem capable of following the bouncing ball. To John, it seemed so simple, but Brian was constantly trying to reinvent an existing process that, if followed, already worked quite well. He would often ignore the new accounts process and send out stock before an account was approved. Customers loved it, but it often backfired by causing delays. John hated to admit it, but it looked like Brian was too scattered. He was not a good fit for the job. John couldn't think of any other area of the company that didn't have processes to follow, so there was no better place for Brian to go. In the end, John had to release Brian from the company and wish him the best in his future. Process orientation can be uncovered in both assessments and interview questions. Having this orientation serves to instill much-needed confidence in the customer. It creates a comfort level for the buyer, for the employee and for others in the company, ensuring that nothing is being missed. Good processes ensure smooth dealings with no unnecessary touchpoints, resulting in the best possible outcomes for you and your customers. Too little process orientation can be troublesome, as the story demonstrates, but too much process orientation can also be a problem. If a customer care employee is afraid to step off the process when a situation calls for it, he may become dogmatic and rigid. Rigidity in following processes can cause as many problems as not following processes at all. Employees need to know where the boundaries are, as well as company expectations as to when they should use their own judgment to cross those lines. Carl had never had a shipment go so wrong so fast. A new product had been shipped for a grand opening, and it was missing and untrackable. The customer, one of Carl's best, was beside himself with worry. Carl's boss was in an important client meeting, so Carl made a quick decision. He offered to leave work, pack a replacement shipment in the back of his car, and drive the 2 hours to the customer's workplace. It would not be there for the opening bell, but at least the customer could tell clients when it would arrive. The customer was ecstatic. Carl knew he was pushing the boundaries and completely disrupting his and his colleagues' workday, but this customer was in a spot, and he made the decision to fix it. He believed his supervisor would have done the same. He was right. Knowing when to subvert the process is as important as sticking to it, as a general rule. Carl's customer would not soon forget this demonstration of up-service, a service so excellent that it inspires the customer to expand the relationship with the seller. Again, the Goldilocks principle applies. Blind adherence to process is too hard. No process at all is too soft. Find the balance for a customer experience that's just right. 4. Check for a relationship focus. Check before you hire for a candidate's overall people skills. The best people skills that candidates will ever employ are in the interview situation as they try to win a position. If they don't capture you there, do you really want them in front of your valuable customers? In my hiring practice, I have a checklist for telephone interviews, my first hoop for qualifying candidates. Candidates must score a minimum of 27 out of a possible 30 points to be invited to submit a resume. A critical part of the phone interview is people skills. Candidates are awarded points for how they come across on the telephone. Here are some of the criteria I use to evaluate candidates. 1. Do they pull me in? This is a rapport-building reference that includes using my name, employing good listening skills, and showing a respectful amount of familiarity, politeness, good grammar, and focus. In short, I have my radar switched on to something called manners. I listen for phrases like, "Thanks for taking my call, Anne." "Do you have time right now to chat?" "I appreciate you taking the time to talk today." "Can I share something with you, Anne?" "Anne, will I have an opportunity to meet with you at some point?" And, "Can you help me understand the process from here?" When I hear these things from a candidate, I write an immediate "wow" or "good" or "schedule interview" across the top of a telephone screen sheet. 2. How do they make me feel? Believe it or not, I often feel completely frustrated after completing a telephone screen. This is often because A. The candidate wasn't prepared and didn't know the content of the job listing itself. This makes me feel like I have to handhold and fill in information the candidate should already know. B. The candidate obviously wasn't listening, as proved by an inability to answer questions I asked. C. The candidate talked randomly about himself and wasn't focused. D. The candidate used poor grammar or inappropriate language. This is cause for an immediate "no" written on his telephone screen sheet. And finally, E. The candidate asked self-serving questions about money, hours, breaks, or vacation time. These questions are important, but the time for them is later in the process and not in an initial qualifying conversation. Hiring employees well suited to customer care will result in great customer.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?